This is City Focus, the podcast from the League of Oregon Cities, where we explore the issues that matter to cities across Oregon.
Welcome to episode 13 of City Focus. On this episode, I'm joined by former Mayor Bill Graupp and City Recorder Scott Jorgenson from the City of Aurora for a discussion about third-party building inspection preservation. The City of Aurora is dealing with this issue right now, and Bill and Scott share how their city would be affected should this program be taken out of the city's control. They'll also share some of the good things that are happening in and around the City of Aurora and some of the projects that are on the horizon. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you. It has. We're talking about third-party building inspections. This made the list at number 6 for the 2019 legislative priorities for the League of Oregon City. Out of a big list that was distilled down into these 6, I have to admit I was a little bit surprised to see this issue on there. I didn't think it was that big of an issue. And I know that the City of Aurora has been dealing with this. You've got some real-world experience with it. So I thought it would be good to tell the tale of what it looks like for a city to be dealing with third-party building inspections, what that means if it changes from the way it is, and how it is now.
Okay, so I'll start. We had about 7 years ago decided to switch away from what we were doing for building inspections, which was with the county that was overloaded at the time. Things were really busy. And go into focus on bringing in a local party that we would have control and collaboration with as opposed to working with Big Brother, so to speak.
Okay.
We thought that'd be better for our citizens, better for our community, and just more personable, where we're trying to help our citizens who are developing in our town be more. And it turned out to be a great collaboration. At that time, before it was Northwest Code Pro, same Northwest Code Professionals is who we use now, but they were known as the building company back in those days. Same company. They came in and made a very good proposal for us and showed how they could really help our citizens who wanted to build or improve their homes or better their businesses. And it turned out to be a great collaboration. It still is a great collaboration. So by hiring on with them, we just brought it more home and local rule and kind of kept it where we want to be.
Okay, one of the concerns that has come up is that, like you said, the county was overloaded. You even go further than the county level to the state level, and you've got even more of a backlog. So with having these issues with homelessness and shortages of housing and trying to sort of at least maybe not fast track, but move these things along, that sounds like it's been a good solution for you.
Yeah, and it's been really a cost reduction, in my opinion, for having these kind of more collaborative relationships and for people who are doing home building to get that personal relationship where it's kind of collaborated out so they know exactly what they need to do. It's not somebody who's running across the county left and right trying to keep up with the schedule. So there's just a better way of doing things, which reduces cost tremendously, which also is very important for us keeping our cost controls down.
Now, Scott, you and I had talked offline. There's a specific example that came to your mind when I brought this up to you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, let's see, my perspective on this, I'd been in the legislature for 5 years, and just before taking this position, and within days of starting, I was informed that, oh boy, State Building Codes Division is going to adopt some emergency rules restricting cities' abilities to do this. And I said, wow, here I thought I was done dealing with lobbyists and legislators and state agencies. And we started pushing back. As it is right now, we have a world-class restaurant that's going to be opening in Aurora very soon. Wow. It's Filbert's Farmhouse Kitchen. We've got all this development that's happening right now, all of this investment. And between that restaurant and a couple of other businesses, it'll be about 100 jobs, with about a third of them being family wage jobs. And for a town of around 1,000 people, that's huge. Not to mention what it means for Aurora's tax base and kind of diversifying our economy. People know Aurora for antiques, and that's great. But one of the things we've been trying to do is bring in more professional services. So one of the businesses is an electrical contracting company. Those employees make really good money.
Yeah, they do.
We have a business that's in Tigard right now that's going to be relocating, it's going to be bringing administrative positions, right? Those are really high paying. And we just had a pre-application conference, a few weeks ago for a property that's been a vacant lot for a really long time now. like it's right by City Hall, so I get to walk by it all the time and see it. And this whole time I've thought, well, we should really get something in there.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a great development. We're going to have kind of a classic car showcase on the bottom, some apartments on top. So we'll be increasing our housing stock. And the system that we have right now is working just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on my experience in the legislature, whenever I see a state agency trying to step in, say, hey, look, you're trying to solve a problem that does not exist.
That, to circle back around, that's why one of the reasons I was surprised that this was on there is I've never heard that it is a problem. So is it a solution in search of a problem kind of a deal here, or what is it?
It could be. And this was all the result of an opinion that was issued by the Department of Justice saying that the use of third parties is an unconstitutional delegation of authority. Essentially, you're delegating your delegated authority. But here's the thing. This is a small town.
Mm-hmm.
We have a city staff of 6, and we contract with third parties for a lot of our services.
Yeah.
So if that's the precedent that's going to be set here, we don't have a full-time city attorney. And to be perfectly honest, there wouldn't be anything for a full-time city attorney to do. So it's on a contract basis, on charges by the hour. Same thing with our city planner, our city engineer. Even our law enforcement, that is done through contract with the Marion County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
So if you start telling cities that they can't delegate and use third parties, you're going to make it very, very difficult to let cities work.
Which is the whole mantra of the 2019 legislative priorities that fits nicely in there. It's interesting because it seems that only that one thing was singled out. When you list off that laundry list of other things that are contracted out, any idea why it was that one particular thing?
Speculation abounds. There's definitely some particular individuals who were involved in this one particular thing, that had probably an agenda for their divisions of what they're doing in the Department of Commerce, trying to bring back control to the state level, has one speculation to it. The other thing being that it is just, a personal agenda.
Well, one of the things we talk about on the City Focus podcast and the angle is home rule, letting cities work, really bringing the control down to the cities. And so this issue sort of piqued my interest as well, because that seems to be going in the opposite direction of what we're trying to do here. So if this changes, what would life look like for doing the projects that you guys are talking about? What would that do to those projects and the timelines and just getting it done?
Well, certainly it would slow things down, which then adds cost. Whether people like enough when you have projects on delay and things, developers or builders are losing money, or it's costing them because they have contractors on site and they're waiting for services that need to be done. When we have more personal local service like this, even though it is contracted out, you get things done in a predictable, timely schedule. There's a commitment to service where it's not so much just we'll get to it when we get to it kind of thing. When you have a larger government that's trying to balance a huge workload, so that's very problematic. That we really feel that it was better to just not do this. The other thing is, in Scott's point of view, we have a concept here that I don't know if other states do it, but we do Council of Governments, where we centralize services for small rural cities, and we have a Willamette cog here, and we centralize a lot of services through that. That's a working model. State agencies also centralize their services quite nicely, sometimes with contracts to help in the cases of overload and things. Even the DOJ, contracts out their work, to contract services. So it is the model that is really efficient and is best use of the taxpayers' dollars and developers and just citizens in general who are just trying to remodel their home. This is the most efficient form, and we just don't feel that anything was broken. I don't know of any case, and you answer your question, where somebody can say, hey, a building fell because of contract inspectors. Right. They are doing the same job as the state people. And there's a lot of cities who use the state and the county employees, and there's cities who use private. But I don't know of anything where that is being shown as being ineffective.
And aren't they certified through state?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the standards are there. So there is a check on them there as well. Okay. It just seems like the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better.
Options.
Well, yeah, in the emergency rules that the Building Codes Division adopted and later rescinded after we put some political pressure on, they put kind of an arbitrary cap and said no more than 3 cities can band together to provide this service. And we're sitting there going, why 3?
Yeah.
Why not 5? Why not? So that caused all kinds of issues. And we're happy with the service that we're getting right now from this company. It's the responsiveness is good. There's a quick turnaround. The customer service is phenomenal. So it doesn't take long. Our inspector comes in a couple of days a week. There's usually things for him to do, so that if we get these kinds of inquiries, we can say, okay, well, shoot me an email. I'll get it to him, or he'll be in tomorrow. The turnaround especially, because you need to be able to keep these projects moving.
Yes.
And to me, this wasn't just about Aurora. A lot of the cities that were affected by this, I mean, my background was that I started off as a small town reporter in Southern Oregon, and to a lesser extent on this end of the state, but it was about Jacksonville, Rogue River, Cave Junction, Estacada, all these other towns, many of which are clients of Northwest Code professionals, and even Josephine County. And that was one of the things that I thought was kind of silly about this, is that the idea is that you have to have a public official be your building official. Well, one of the guys on staff at Northwest Code Professionals was the building official in Josephine County for the many years that I lived and reported there. So it's not like they don't have the expertise. They most certainly do.
Wow. Okay.
And a lot of small cities, and I want to thank a lot of cities' managers and mayors who jumped on as soon as this became evident as a problem. I know we were one of the first people yelling about it. That was just, we yelled louder at first, but a lot of cities jumped in with us, and they gave us great support and jumped on with LOC, who then started coordinating this. It was a great combined effort because it did affect, and what was really surprising was at the LOC conference, how many middle-sized cities came up and said, hey, we're with you too, because it's affecting us. And that was quite interesting to me. I thought it was a small city problem. It's not. It's affecting everybody. So it is quite the larger issue, even though we started off as a rural, this is really devastating to rural small cities. It's not. It's affected a lot of people.
No, and you're right about that. I have a friend who's a planner in Multnomah County, and I mentioned it to him, and he said, actually, the way they're trying to do this would hurt us too. Wow. So even Multnomah County would have been adversely affected by this.
Wow, that's interesting to hear. And again, it really highlights why this did make the top priority list then, because of the sort of the tentacles it has out there all over the state.
Yeah.
Well, and especially with the timing of it. And this came up at the Coastal Caucus Economic Summit in late August, and I was asked to be on a panel along with LOC lobbyist Aaron Doyle and a lot of local officials and legislators talking about this issue. And the fact of the matter is we're in the middle of a housing crisis, and we have more people than we have places for them to live. You've also, in a lot of these towns, I watched a lot of these cities struggle for most of the last 20 years. Even before the recession hit, Southern Oregon still hadn't fully recovered from the logging restrictions in the 1990s. So, I was in Josephine County when they had no libraries, when they had limited law enforcement for years. And they're just now starting to see investment and job creation and recovery, full employment, all of this. And this would literally be just pulling the rug out from everybody. Large and small cities alike, for really no good reason.
This is an issue that what I'm hearing from you and what I heard from Erin in talking to her about this, that pretty much it seems that there's consensus that this, to keep this the way it is the way we all want to go, the league's perspective and the city's large, small, and middle.
Well, yeah, and hopefully there can be a legislative solution, because there was a bill proposed during the session earlier this year, but the timeline wasn't quite there. And I don't remember at the time during the session anybody jumping up and down and saying, hey, if we don't pass this bill, small cities aren't going to be able to do this. Now, LOC ended up opposing a bill because a lot of its members opposed the bill, because it would have required all these cities to delegate a public employee as a building official. So that was one of the things that Senator Betsy Johnson insisted on when she got everybody together at the Coastal Caucus. And, we had a representative there from Department of Consumer Business Services. And Betsy said, look, no more sneak attacks on cities, no more legal opinions. If you guys are going to do this, do it through a work group process. And my perspective was essentially, look, as soon as I heard about this, I started calling all of you. I don't want to have to come back to Salem, right? I'm happy being in Aurora, taking care of things, solving small town problems. Do not make me come to Salem because I will not be in a very good mood, right? Just leave us alone and I'll leave you alone. And I told them, I've got all your personal cell phone numbers. I know how to get a hold of you. I will bother you to no end if you bother me.
Well, it sounds like it's good that the league is in here advocating for that so that you don't have to.
Exactly.
And working closely with them. Well, I think, again, this because it's number 6 on the list. It is something that is a priority this session. So I'm glad that you are both speaking out against it and providing your stories. One of the things I talk about with the lobbyist is these stories, that restaurant, the real world effects that it's going to have on cities need to be shared with legislators so that they understand the ramifications of this. And wrapping up this conversation, I did want to just touch real quick before we close on to just give a little shout out to Aurora. A lot of times you feel like the smaller cities don't get the attention that they sometimes need, and you hit a little bit on some good things that are happening. Mayor, is there anything you want to just share, just in a quick nutshell, what's good going on in Aurora right now?
Well, as most people know, Aurora is kind of notorious for being a historic town. We have one of the original historic districts in our town. It's got a great history to it. We celebrate that history. We honor it throughout the year with our Colony Days celebrations and things of that nature. But at the same time, it's evolving, which is in a great way. Yeah. We are becoming more and more a bedroom community for metro professionals, people escaping across the river to find affordable homes that are nice, and we have a great community. And I can't speak enough for the volunteers that actually make Aurora work. As Scott pointed out, we only have 6 paid employees. The rest of us are all volunteers. Wow. And we have a great community of volunteers that really make the city happen and make it a great town. And by having all that there, and being just naturally that we're on a nice highway, 99E, businesses are coming to invest as they're coming out of Metro, or just as more traffic is coming through. We are getting great business investment, and Scott mentioned a little bit of it, and it's kind of really nice that we're on that edge now where the business investment and the home investments and things are coming. Our partner cities, which are Donald and Hubbard, are also experiencing very nice development, and Donald is doing some UGB growth to get some more homes and affordable housing for their workers in town, which is great. We just had a meeting this morning on the education district and how we're going to bring in some more CTE programs. Excellent. So we're getting some great work there done for the community, and really putting a focus on making it a great place for our kids, as well as the whole environment of today's workers, but our future workers as well.
Nice. That's encouraging to hear. I'm happy to hear that. We're just about out of time here. I think we hit on some good information. I'm glad you guys came in and shared your experiences with us. I think it's important for our listeners to hear, for our membership to hear. So once again, we've had Bill Graupp and City Recorder Scott Jorgenson joining us today to talk about third-party building inspections. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for coming in.
Appreciate it for having us on.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of City Focus. Be sure to check out the show notes for information about pending legislation on this issue, as well as information on the City of Aurora. My name is Denise Nanke, and I'm the host and producer of City Focus, the podcast from the League of Oregon Cities. The League is a governmental entity formed to work with our members to help local governments better serve the citizens of Oregon. LOC strives to be the go-to place for Oregon cities as a resource hub for advocacy, education, and best practices. While our focus is Oregon and Oregon issues, we realize that we have many issues in common across the country, and we hope this podcast will reach beyond the borders of our state to share ideas and solutions. If you have suggestions for topics or comments about any of our podcasts, send me an email at cityfocus@orcities.org.